Chapter 2 of the Dirt Bike Racer. It lay on its side near a giant boulder. The two shining objects turned out to be its handlebars. The rest of its small compact body was turning green from algae. I couldn't get over it. A dirt bike! How did it get here? How long had it been here? And what in the world were we going to do about it? I looked around at Tony, the question in my eyes. Well, are we just going to sit here and look at it, or shall we do something about it? Mini bike and motocross races have become pretty popular in our neighbourhood. Mike, Tony's 16-year-old brother, has a Honda. He's had a bike since he was 11 years old, starting with a small Suzuki and getting the Honda only last year. I've envied him and other motorbike owners for a long time. I've even dreamed of owning one of these babies myself someday, but it's just been a dream. I swam around the bike, noticing that part of its wheels were sunk in the sand. I grabbed its handlebars and pulled. The bike moved easily, stirring up the sand, and I stared at Tony. No, his eyes said as he shook his head, and no again. I frowned at him and shook my head vigorously. Darn it, Tony, I wanted to shout, I found this bike. I want to get it out of here. No, his head shook again. Ah, the idiot, I thought. Wait till you get something from me. I didn't give up. If he wasn't going to help me, I'd get the bike out myself. And if I weren't able to do it alone, I'd get my father to help me. Turning away from Tony, I grabbed the handlebars of the bike and started to lift it. It was still too heavy for me to lift. I cursed silently and was about to give up when Tony grabbed the rear fender reluctantly, judging by the shake of his head, and we began to swim up with it. We raised it to the surface and swam with it to the tip of Turkey Point. It was heavier now, but we managed to pull it to shore, where I'd taken off my mask, my air cylinder, and the fins. Tony did the same. Then we both looked at our underwater treasure. I wonder how it got in there, I said. Nobody in his right mind would toss a beauty like that into a lake. Tony didn't answer immediately, and I saw his forehead crease as if he was trying to remember something. Don't tell me you know something about this, I said. I think I do, he answered. Remember back about 2 years ago when a houseboat was damaged in a storm and one of the things lost from it was a dirt bike? Hey, that's right, I said. I remember. The whole picture wasn't too clear yet, but I vaguely remembered about the storm and a damaged houseboat. Well, none of these things were ever found. This must be a mini bike that was lost. I don't know what happened to turn just then. Maybe it was intuition, but I had a feeling that we were being watched. Sure enough, we were. I got a slight shock because the two guys who were sitting on their motorcycles about 100 feet away from us, staring at us unusually, came on strong. They had probably arrived just before Tony and I had surfaced with the mini bike. Lookers watching us like vultures, I said. Yeah, Lugmanier and Skitch Bentley, observed Tony. The two most honest guys in all Dell. They were wearing dark sunglasses. Lug was sitting with his arms crossed over his chest, chewing gum. Skitch was leaning forward, his elbows on the handlebars of the motorcycle. I didn't like their presence one bit. I don't trust them, I said to Tony. Ignore them, he said, and let's start washing this baby off before the green stuff dries on it. Wash it with what? Water, what else? When you get it home, you can use a brush and rags. I stared at him. Look, you helped me bring it up. It's as much yours as it is mine. Don't be ridiculous, he said. You're the one who found it. My heart started pumping hard. Tony, are you sure that you... Look, let's get it washed so that when you have it home, your father won't want to throw it into a junk pile, Tony interrupted. He stepped closer to it and rubbed off the slimy algae that partially covered a name. Johnny Joe, it read. You know something, Ron? I think you've found yourself a real sharp little racer here. I read Mike's bike magazines once in a while, and I remember reading an article or two about Johnny Joe. Yes, sirree, baby. I think you've found something. Unless the kilns try to take it back from you. The Kleins. The Kleins! They're the people who own the houseboat. That's right. I'll have to check on them first, I said. I wish he hadn't mentioned about the Kleins all the time we was washing the slime off the mini bike. The possibility of their reclaiming the bike was the only thing I could think about. I heard the roar of engines and turned to see Lug and Skitch leave. I sighed with relief. Good riddance, I thought. Maybe they were living a straight life lately, but if any two guys looked as though they were really ready to break the rules, any minute, it was those two. Getting the bike home was our next problem. My father was working and he had no car. I racked my brain and finally thought of Mr. Reston, our next door neighbour. Not only did he work nights, but he had a utility trailer. The Mini would fit into it easy. I mentioned my idea to Tony, and he agreed with it. We used our locker room in the bushes again, dried ourselves in the towels and got into our clothes. Then, while Tony remained to watch over the Mini, which looked a lot different now after the wash, I biked Mr. Reston's house. I rode my bike to Mr. Reston's house and found him putting in a new kitchen sink. It seemed that the Restons were always putting in something new or buying new furniture. My mother said that they always bought inexpensive stuff which seldom lasted long. A good reason, I suppose, for buying new things fairly regularly. I gave Mr. Reston the whole story and got an answer. I was afraid I would. Can't till I get this doggone sink in, Ronnie, he said. Can't you wait for another half-hour or so? Be glad to bring your bike home then. What kind of a bike did you say it was? A dirt bike. What they call a mini bike, I said. It's got a motor. Oh yes, a single-cylinder, 2-cycle engine, I explained. It should fit into your trailer easily, Mr. Reston. Oh, I'm sure it will, but it'd still be half an hour. He looked at his wristwatch. It's 3:45 now. I'll see you about 3:15, Ron. OK, I'll wait for you at Turkey Point, Mr. Reston. Tony's there watching over the bike. Fine. I rode back and told Tony the story. There was nothing to do but sit on the sand and wait. That's the end of chapter 2.